Could it be healthcare reform round two? President Obama's plan to overhaul the way Wall Street does business hits a roadblock in the Senate. Democrats failed to get the 60 votes needed to start a debate on the bill. The sticking points on the measure include establishing a consumer protection agency and a $50 billion fund to bail out banks. But unlike healthcare reform, leaders from both parties say they want to see a bill passed.
At what point do my colleagues understand that until we debate these issues and resolve some of these matters, we're as vulnerable today as we were 18 months ago to the kind of financial disaster that confronted the nation and brought us to the brink of a financial meltdown?
I don't want to unduly delay anything. We're negotiating for a better piece of legislation, not for the sake of delay.
And for more now on the financial overhaul debate, we're joined by David Marks, senior editor for Politico. Good to see you, David.
Good morning. Good to be here.
David, we talked about these two sticking points. Explain to us exactly why both sides of the aisle can't agree on these two major issues.
Both sides, Republicans and Democrats, each want to have this as a campaign issue, probably as much as they want to actually pass legislation. Republicans are saying that by creating a fund, even though it's paid for by financial services companies, by creating a fund for a bailout, it would exactly institutionalize a bailout. It would mean that firms would not have to behave responsibly, that they know they could be off the hook. Somebody could come in and bail them out if they didn't act in good faith. Democrats are saying Republicans are essentially tools of Wall Street, that they're not willing to go after financiers aggressively, those who got us into this financial mess in the first place. I think we're going to hear a lot of that on the campaign trail in the coming months.
And because of that, do you think we should just mark our calendars sometime after November that we can expect anything to actually happen on this, if it happens at all?
It's entirely possible that we will just face gridlock. The first test vote on Monday went down to defeat for Democrats in the Senate. There's no indication that's likely to change, and there just may not be middle ground to be had, and there may be no legislation, at least before Election Day.
Is America ready for another battle like we saw with health care reform, or are people tapped out when it comes to a feud on Capitol Hill?
I think the difference here is financial reform is more popular than the health proposal was. People are still angry about this recession. They blame Wall Street and financiers for getting the economy into this mess in the first place, and they want to see something done about it. So I think the Congress, politicians, Democrats specifically, do have some level of public support for this, although probably not as strong as they'd like to see it.
There were some senators that came out early on saying they might be swayed, Republican senators, towards the Democrats' position, Olympia Snowe and others. How likely is it that they are going to become eventually one or two or three of the 60 votes needed to start debate on all of this?
All the Republican senators went against the Democrats on the test vote on Monday, which did not allow the bill to come up for a vote. There's no indication right now anything will change. It's possible in closed-door negotiations they could be persuaded to come over to the Democrat side, but at this point it doesn't seem too likely.
There's a very controversial new law in Arizona in regards to immigration, and that's causing quite a stir on Capitol Hill. Explain to us what the stipulations are to that, and then also the reaction.
This law in Arizona would not only allow local police to stop people they suspect of being illegal immigrants, it would mandate that they stop people just based on the suspicion for whatever reason. It's kind of unclear and murky. That could be how they look, how they're dressed, what kind of car they're driving. This has a lot of folks in Congress upset. Democrats are very critical of this, particularly Democrats from Arizona. Republicans in Congress aren't even supporting it all that much. I was actually talking to Tom Tancredo a little while ago. He's a former Republican congressman from Colorado, probably the most vocal critic of illegal immigration. Even he was saying this went a little too far for his taste, just allowing police to stop folks for no specific reason. So I think there's going to be a lot of pushback, starting with several lawsuits coming very soon.
And so how is that going to affect things in November with re-elections?
It would seem to give Democrats a bit more of an advantage in that they have been trying to woo the Hispanic vote, not just in places like Arizona, also in Texas, California, Florida, and elsewhere. And this could potentially help give Democrats the upper hand by labeling Republicans the anti-immigrant party. The problem for the Democrats is it will force their own members to take a whole series of tough votes that, as we were just discussing, after health care, they're probably not very anxious to do.
So much is riding on November. All right, David Mark from Politico. David, as always, thank you.
Thank you.